Okay, after the first part, now we come to the second part of the lesson 6, and it's about the implementation of the strategy. It's the start of the implementation of the strategy. It's the first things we are going to deal with about it. Okay, we have chosen an alternative. Maybe we have got many different strategic alternatives which are suitable, then feasible, then acceptable. Well, but we choose one and we have to put it into practice. And let me tell you a fable. Let me tell you a short story, okay? Um, because strategic implementation has never been taken so seriously as a strategic formulation by many researchers. Like many researchers have put all their efforts in strategic formulation and forgot about strategic implementation. Let me tell you a story, okay? Cucarachas, cucarachas, had a problem, okay? And the problem was that, well, the problem of cucarachas. People try to kill them because they are, well, people don't like them. So they decided to hire one consultant coming from one of the big four companies, okay? And they told him, okay, we have got a problem and we want to get to a strategy to solve it. And the consultant said, well, I will carry out and then I will come out with some strategic alternatives. But first of all, let me do the analysis. And 1 week after, the consultant came to the cucarachas and told them, okay, now, the problem is that you are cucarachas. You are cucarachas, you are dark, you are ugly, you are associated with dirt, you are troublesome for people, you are associated with diseases, and well, no need to say that obviously people is not aligned with you, don't like you. And Kukracha said, well, that's great, we have hired the best consultant. I mean, well, the strategic analysis, it's incredible, it's perfect. Okay, now let's go to the part of strategic formulation. So, well, the consultant left, and a week after he came back and said, I've got perfect strategy for you. And the strategy is you have to turn into butterflies. Butterflies are beautiful, they are colored, they flourish with spring, and they are associated with positive feelings and so on. And then Cucaracha said, my God, this is the best consultant ever. I mean, we have to turn into butterflies. That's it. That's the solution. And but one of them, who was more critical, said, okay, great, but how are we going to turn into butterflies? And then the consultant said, this is a matter of implementation. This is not my point. Implementation is as important as formulation. Having a good strategy is great, but putting it into practice, being able to put it into practice, is also very important if we want our cucarachas to turn into butterflies. And God knows that ain't easy. Well, the implementation of the strategy includes the activities and decisions needed to put a strategy into practice in order to reach its mission, vision, goals, given the limitation of resources, capabilities, and time. So, implementation are all the activities to put strategy into practice. Okay, this is taken from the book of Guerras y Navas. The book I recommend you. Okay, I obviously recommend you. Well, here you have got, well, I told you that implementation is normally underrated. But in fact, implementation is intertwined with formulation. If we don't take into account, whenever we are formulating a strategy, if we don't take into account that we will have to put it into practice, we will always be mistaken. Always. Okay, so Bonoma in 1984 created a matrix relating implementation with formulation. Well, obviously, if the implementation is optimum and the formulation, I mean the strategy formulated is suitable, then it's going to be successful. We have got a suitable strategy, an adequate strategy, well implemented. That's great. We are granting success. If we have a not suitable strategy, we formulate a wrong strategy, but we implement it perfectly, well, two situations can happen. First of all, we are going to recognize immediately that the strategy was not adequate, but we sometimes can rescue it. By rescue it, I mean we can change some things in order to make it adequate. Or it will happen to be not successful immediately and it will ruin, but we are not going to lose much money or resources and capabilities. We are going to recognize it immediately. Okay, imagine that we have got a suitable strategy, the strategy is adequate, but we implement it poorly. We are going to face problems. Why? Well, the strategy is suitable, but we haven't implemented it in the right way. So it's going to have problems, it's going to create problems, and we are not going to be able to recognize if it is because of the strategy or because of the implementation. We know that the strategy is not working. Finally, if the strategy is not suitable and we implement it poorly, we are going to fail, for sure. Okay? So, in the implementation of the strategy, we have got this McKinsey 7 S's model. Well, let me tell you, this model is a bit of a craze. I mean, why? This model, do you know the 4Ps model? Well, 4Ps model was created by Philip Kotler in marketing, okay, and it was more or less elegant. So after 4Ps model, some other people and firms tried to create their own letters model, the 3Cs model, okay, and this 7 S's. Whenever you create such a model, in fact, you are forcing the words. You are forcing the words. Look, which are the 7 S's? Strategy, great. It's an S. Okay. Then structure, great. Systems. By systems, we mean management information systems. This is another subject you are studying. You have got. Okay. Systems. Okay. Shared values. Shared values. Shared values is what we call culture. Culture. Okay, this is the culture of the firm, but in order to be an S, it's shared values. Okay, skills are skills, habilidades. Okay, that's great. Style. By style, we mean management style, and by management style, we really mean leadership. Okay, so style is leadership. And then staff, which are people, which are human resources, or which are talent. Okay. Well, in fact, this model is complex. Maybe you are going to tell me, and do you want us to remember the 7 S's? Well, I want you to remember, but I will give you a clue or a way to remember them, okay? But the model is clearly complex. It deals with many factors. The implementation of the strategy, in fact, depends on many different factors. These factors are intertwined, are related with each other. They are influencing each other. What do we mean by this? Obviously, the leadership, the management style, influences the culture of the company, and vice versa. And, well, the behavior of some of these factors is unpredictable. It's not easy to know beforehand how they are going to behave and which are the problems and the situations they are going to create. Okay? Well, I told you that we are going to have a clue to know the 7 S's. Well, in fact, they are related with the 2 lessons, lesson 7 and lesson 8, we are going to have after this one. So, in lesson 7, we are going to deal with the organizational support. By the organizational support, we mean the organization conditions in order to put this strategy into practice. Okay? And which are these organizational conditions? The organizational structure, one of the S's, the management and leadership, the style, another one, okay, human resources management, the staff, and organizational culture, the shared values, okay? So, in fact, we are talking about the conditions of the firm, the organization. And then we have got the administrative systems. Administrative systems is more or less easy. It's planning the strategy, it's controlling the strategy, and it's the management information system. And we are not going to devote any time to the management information system so long as you have got a full subject to study it. Okay? Well, which are the possible causes for implementation failure? Well, first of all, a timing mistake. We are going to deal with it immediately. Time matters, clearly. Okay? Then, a poor definition of the tasks involved. What do I mean by this? Whenever we have got a strategy and we want to put it into practice, we need to know what we have to do in order to do so. Okay, imagine now, we have to turn into butterflies. Okay, how do we turn into butterflies? Okay, you do this, you do that, you do that, you do that, you do that. If we have got a good definitions of the tasks involved, then we can succeed. If we don't know which are the tasks involved and we don't have a plan, a clear plan in order to do so, we are going to fail, obviously. Okay, the lack of skills of the people involved and the management and leadership problems, we are going to deal with them immediately, but people matter. People are critical in order to implement a strategy. Look, when it comes to a strategic formulation, who formulates a strategy? The top managers. When it comes to implementation, who implements a strategy? Who puts it into practice? Everyone in the organization. Of course, managers, but any worker. Okay. Not following adequately the activities. By this I mean, imagine that we have got a good plan, but we don't follow it. It's not going to work. And finally, there could be some environmental problems or changes. What I mean is that, okay, this is our strategy, this is what we are going to do, but then there's a problem or a change in the environment. For instance, Ibercaja Banco had got a plan to offer shares at the stock market, okay, to get publicly listed. But coronavirus crisis started, so they in fact stopped that plan. The plan was not, the strategy was probably adequate and the steps were adequate and so on, but in fact this coronavirus came and, well, they had to change the plan, okay? So in fact the implementation of the strategy was stopped at a given point. Even if the strategy was not wrong, even if the implementation was correctly planned and the activities were being delivered properly, okay? Well, I said that time matters. If we take too short in order to put a strategy into practice, we normally will fail. Why? Because many different complicated activities will have to be put into practice at the same time. And it's really difficult to do many important things at the same time. We normally don't have the resources. On the other hand, if we take too long to put a new strategy into practice, people won't believe it. I mean, it's going to be a never-ending process. Yes, we are doing this, but in the end we don't, For instance, an M&A, a merger, okay, if it takes too many years to finally merge. I mean, no, but now we are going to create an integration of the operating systems, but now we are going to, and it takes 5 years. In the end, it can fail because it takes too long to be frozen, to be completed, okay? And people matter, people is relevant. Everyone in the organization is involved. Obviously, the main role belongs to the Chief Strategy Officer, okay? But any management and leadership abilities are critical in order to persuade the organization about the advantages of the new strategy, in order to make everyone committed, to get everyone committed with the strategy and so on, okay? So, now we have dealt with the second part of this lesson, which is, as you can see, shorter.